Chapter 21 Barbecue. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. Black wind, Zhao Xinyu's words were like an imperial edict. Haifeng's expression instantly became sluggish. He ran towards Zhao Xinyu obediently with his head drooped. His big head rubbed against Zhao Xinyu's legs a few times. His expression was like that of a child who had done something wrong. At this moment, the eyes of the 4 panicked girls instantly showed expressions of astonishment. They really didn't expect that the big dog that was so vicious just now would show such a funny scene. You guys are really boring. The 4 of them all said that they are not afraid of anything. I let Black Wind scare them. Du Mengnan curled his lips. After saying this, Du Mengnan turned around and pointed at the door. What's going on? Did you do something that TN people complained about, and people splashed paint on it? Zhao Xinyu smiled helplessly and said, they are some scoundrels in the village. They want to take the vegetables I grow for free. If I don't give them to them, they will cause trouble. Call the police. It's useless. By the way, why are you free today? Zhao Xinyu asked with a smile, but he remembered that Du Mengnan hadn't been here for a while since the last time he left with Watermelon. I went out to do some errands in the past few days. Didn't they just come to see me? I will take them to experience your farm life. I told you that the 4 of them are my best friends. If you can't entertain them well today, I don't recognize you as my friend. The eyes of the 4 girls who had regained consciousness flickered for a few times. The almond-shaped eyes of a girl who was as long as a porcelain doll flickered for a few times. There was a weird smile on her pretty face. She looked up and down at Zhao Xinyu, who was wearing ordinary clothes. Eyes, nodding like an old scholar. He looks okay, but he's a little thin. Meng, he can't be your boyfriend. As soon as she said this, Du Mengnan blushed and reached out to pinch her. Umo, what are you talking about? Zhao Xinyu laughed awkwardly. We are just ordinary friends. What do you want to eat? Let's change the pattern. I made a promise to both of them. Considering that the 4 girls are all Du Mengnan's best friends, they only have a few types of vegetables in their own vegetable garden. If they only use vegetables to entertain each other, although the taste will definitely attract them, they will feel a lot different. I'll cook a barbecue for you. You can also cook barbecue. Du Mengnan stared at Zhao Xinyu, with a trace of disbelief in her eyes. She knew that Zhao Xinyu came from the countryside and had been working and studying for 5 years in college in Pengcheng. She originally thought that this guy had good cooking skills, but she didn't expect this guy to still be a good cook. Can grill. Although they didn't get along for too long, she also knew a little about Zhao Xinyu. This guy dared to give up his good cooking skills for barbecue, which meant that he was very confident in his barbecue skills. Zhao Xinyu chuckled. There are some children who grew up in rural areas who don't know how to barbecue. He was telling the truth. The conditions in the village were not good. Many children would catch pheasants and hares and bake them for themselves. Zhao Xinyu also had a grandfather who was very good at cooking. Many times the old man also gave him guidance, which made him his barbecue skills were very good. At that time, when he went to the mountains with his friends, he cooked all the pheasants and hares. If you need anything, I'll ask Jiamin to send it over. Think about it, Xiao Jiamin is the executive of Pengcheng Hotel, and Pengcheng Hotel is a 5-star hotel. The ingredients there must have their own channels, and the ingredients must be at least better than those sold outside. Get 10 unpickled chickens, ducks, and 3 rabbits. I'll make the seasoning myself. If there's pine wood, I'll get some pine wood. Du Mengnan was stunned. You guys are taking advantage of the situation. Only these few people can eat so much. Zhao Xinyu laughed and said, you forgot, there are more than a dozen people eating here every day. I'm not worried enough about this. Don't worry, I will deduct it from the next time I bring food. Du Mengnan gave him a big look and took out his phone to call Xiao Jiamin. Zhao Xinyu found a stool, but Yuma and the others followed Du Mengnan to the melon field. While Zhao Xinyu was preparing, Zhao Jiamin brought people over and left behind 10 washed chickens and 10 rabbits. The workers left, but Zhao Jiamin stayed. Zhao Xinyu, these are not ordinary chickens and rabbits, these are pheasants and hares, Zhao Jiamin said softly after the workers left. Zhao Xinyu was slightly startled. He knew that the region had issued policies that did not allow private hunting of wild animals, and pheasants and hares were among them. It was okay for the villagers to kill a few occasionally, but if Pengcheng Hotel dared to sell it, then. Seeing Zhao Xinyu's appearance, Zhao Jiamin chuckled and said, "Don't worry, these pheasants and hares are artificially bred, but they are all wild in the mountains." Zhao Xinyu shook his head, soaked the pheasants and hares in the space water, and sprinkled the prepared seasonings in the water. This was only a preliminary step. The soaking could release the remaining blood inside, and secondly, the seasonings could be flavored. More than an hour later, he took out the pheasants and hares, applied the prepared paint evenly, and then placed the pine wood that Zhao Jiamin had brought over in front of the door. At around 11 o'clock, Zhao Xinyu lit the prepared pine wood, and then began to wash the pickled pheasants and hares, and wash off all the seasoning smeared on his body. The pheasant and hare were skewered using the special barbecue iron rods that Zhao Jiamin brought over. When he was doing this, the pine wood had dispersed the fire, and only a faint green smoke was rising from the fire. At this time, Zhao Xinyu placed the skewered pheasant on the fire. A few minutes later, there was a squeaking sound, the skin of the pheasant began to turn yellow, drops of golden oil fell on the fire, and the aroma of meat began to fill the air. When the meat aroma filled the air, Zhao Xinyu picked up the seasoning and sprinkled it evenly on the pheasant. Instantly, the meat aroma became more intense and began to spread towards the surroundings. The aroma of meat filled the air, and Hei Fengfeng, who was teasing the chickens and ducks in the vegetable field, seemed to run out and lie down next to Zhao Xinyu, staring motionlessly at the turning pheasants, and drops of saliva flowed from his mouth. Zhao Xinyu turned the pheasant over and applied the seasonings on the pheasant. As droplets of golden oil fell into the fire, the aroma of the meat became more intense. This time, Du Mengnan and the others, who were sitting under the grape trellis to enjoy the coolness, were finally attracted by the aroma of the meat. Although they did not taste it, they all swallowed their saliva. Looking at the pheasant that had turned golden in color, Du Mengnan swallowed a mouthful of saliva and said, "Zhao Xinyu, is it cooked yet? We are hungry." "Almost, just a few more minutes." While speaking, Zhao Xinyu reached out and pressed a few times on the pheasant's body, and then he smeared a handful of seasoning on the pheasant's body again. When the aroma of meat filled the air again, he reached for a skewered hare and placed the hare on the fire. After more than 10 minutes, the color of the pheasant changed from golden to burnt brown. Zhao Xinyu applied a handful of seasoning and after a while, pressed it on the pheasant. "Get the plate." When he finished speaking, a large iron plate was stretched out in front of him, which made Zhao Xinyu couldn't help but feel happy. He placed the pheasant on the plate and immediately began to turn the hare. Under the grape trellis, Du Mengnan and Zhao Jiamin looked nothing like ladies at this moment. When Du Mengnan put the plate on the table, the 6 of them reached out to grab the pheasant almost at the same time. In an instant, a pheasant was divided into 6 pieces. They didn't care about burning their mouths and just opened their mouths to bite. The wait just now felt like a long time to them. How could they endure it now? After taking one bite, the 6 of them were stunned at the same time. The pheasant was charred on the outside and tender on the inside, without any greasy feeling. They felt a huge impact on their tastes with this bite. The feeling made them want to swallow it with their tongues. In less than 5 minutes, a pheasant weighing 3 to 4 kilograms was completely eaten by them, and several people couldn't help but add grease on their fingers, or couldn't resist the temptation of the smell of meat. They got up almost at the same time and headed towards Zhao Xinyu's barbecue place. At this moment, they even forgot that their faces and hands were covered with grease. Zhao Xinyu, who was having a barbecue, heard the footsteps and turned his head to look. Then he was stunned for a moment, with a strange smile on his face. "What are you looking at?" "Hurry up," Du Mengnan said softly. While speaking, his eyes kept staring at the hare that had turned yellow. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 22 Weird Pulse Diagnosis Techniques. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. Zhao Xinyu laughed and said, "Go and wash your face quickly. It won't be comfortable when the oil dries." As soon as he said this, Du Mengnan and the others reacted immediately, screaming and rushing to Zhao Xinyu's room one by one. They are all people who love beauty, but now, 10 minutes later, Du Mengnan and 6 others came out of the room. Zhao Xinyu saw Yuma, who had been very active just now, with his head lowered, as if he had something on his mind. After applying a handful of seasoning, Zhao Xinyu asked with a smile, "What's wrong with Yuma?" "I didn't eat it just now." Du Mengnan kicked him and said, "Don't talk nonsense, Yuma had an accident a few years ago." The next moment, Du Mengnan seemed to have thought of something. She glanced at Zhao Xinyu and then turned to Umo, this guy used to have a lot of scars on his face, and half of his face was black. He has a formula, maybe it can restore your face to its original appearance. Umo's body trembled, and she raised her head to look at Zhao Xinyu, with a glimmer of hope in her tearful eyes. Zhao Xinyu also saw a light black scar on Umo's face. Thinking about the roll of water in his own space, Zhao Xinyu smiled faintly and handed his cheap mobile phone to Du Mengnan. "Go and show Umo what I used to be like." With a hint of curiosity, Umo and the others saw the photos on Zhao Xinyu's phone when he was discharged from the hospital. Their eyes showed shock. They did not believe that the guy who was cooking barbecue for them was the ugly guy in the photo. "Zhao Xinyu, I can really recover. It should be possible. I can recover even in my appearance. Your scar will be almost healed in about a month," Zhao Xinyu said softly. "You still don't know that he was the only one who survived last year's serial murder case. When he was sent to the hospital, the doctors sentenced him to death, but he still survived. He was once judged to be disabled for life by the doctors. Take a look. What's wrong with his legs now?" As soon as Du Mengnan said these words, Yuma and the others' eyes were full of horror. "Zhao Xinyu, who gave you this prescription?" Du Mengnan chuckled. "He is a student at the University of Traditional Chinese Medicine. He treats himself, so if you have any minor illnesses in the future, just go to him." Zhao Xinyu laughed and said, "I have become a miracle doctor. Now the hare is roasted, get the plate." When Han Li and the others returned to the compound, Du Mengnan and the others had eaten 1 hare and 3 pheasants. Knowing that they had eaten so much, Du Mengnan and the others felt incredible, but they knew that the reason for eating was so much because the pheasant and hare roasted by this guy tastes so good. They wanted to introduce Han Li and the others, but when Du Mengnan and the others saw Han Li and the others coming back, they stood up and left. After Du Mengnan and the others left, Han Li hugged Zhao Xinyu and said, "Boss, you already have Du Mengnan, please introduce me to one of them." Zhao Xinyu's head turned dark and he pushed Han Li away speechlessly. In his mind, all the girlfriends around Du Mengnan, who can drive a starting car, are either rich or noble. How could they like poor guys like them? What's more, he has no relationship with Du Mengnan. He is still single. Even if he is, gotta keep it for myself. "Xinyu, that girl is really good. I think they are familiar with you." "Seize the opportunity," Han Tianliang said with a smile. "Grandpa Han, don't listen to Han Li's nonsense. That's not the case. Just admit it. Du Mengnan has been here so many times. If you two have nothing, who will believe it?" Zhao Xinyu shook his head, simply ignored them, and started to barbecue for them. While waiting to eat, Han Li and others became even more crazy, and almost all the remaining pheasants and hares went into their stomachs. "Xinyu, your cooking and barbecue skills are amazing. If you open a small restaurant, it will definitely become popular." This time, Han Li and the others were not mentioned. After eating the pheasant and hare roasted by Zhao Xinyu, Han Tianliang says so too. Zhao Xinyu smiled bitterly in his heart. He also knew that his cooking skills were enough to establish himself in a small hotel, but he had his original intention. Although his cooking skills were good, he really didn't want to get involved in the chef industry. He wanted to fulfill his grandfather's wish. It is precisely because of this that I would rather deliver food and pick up waste than apply for a job as a chef, but things often backfired, and the Chinese medicine industry he loved most gradually drifted away from him, and now he has become an out-and-out vegetable farmer. Grandpa Han, let's talk about this later. Han Tianliang also sighed slightly. He could hear something from Zhao Xinyu's words and knew that Zhao Xinyu was not willing to engage in the chef industry. Thinking about the vegetables that Zhao Xinyu now grows, the income is also very objective, and Zhao Xinyu can still have some leisure every day, so he didn't say anything else. Han Tianliang and the others left after eating. Zhao Xinyu roasted the remaining hare for himself. He and Heifeng also had a full meal. After cleaning up, he suddenly thought of the scar on Yumo's face. He hurriedly mixed the unused herbs he bought, but then he smiled bitterly. Although he and Du Mengnan were already friends, he didn't even know Du Mengnan's cell phone. No number. But while Zhao Xinyu was watering the vegetables, Du Mengnan and the others turned back and asked about the prescription as soon as they entered the door. It was obvious that they came specifically for Yumo's scar. Knowing the role of water in his own space, Zhao Xinyu chuckled and said, "I can give you the prescription, but the brewing process is very cumbersome, and if the heat is not right, the efficacy of the medicine will be greatly reduced." Yumo was stunned for a moment. "You mean, you can help me?" Zhao Xinyu nodded. "I have also prepared the medicinal ingredients. I will make plasters and decoctions for you right now." Just as Zhao Xinyu said, when they saw Zhao Xinyu boiling the ointment over and over again, not only Yumo, but also Du Mengnan and the others felt their heads grow big. Seeing that the ointment was about to be brewed, Zhao Xinyu began to make the decoction and let Yumo drink the decoction first. After drinking, Yumo frowned and said, "Zhao Xinyu, there doesn't seem to be any reaction." Zhao Xinyu couldn't help but feel happy. Chinese medicine is inherently slower than Western medicine. This means that drinking Western medicine can't show the effect now. The effect will come after applying ointment. 10 minutes later, Zhao Xinyu handed the prepared ointment to Du Mengnan, and asked Du Mengnan to help smear the ointment on Yumo's face, covering both the scarred side and the non-scarred side. After applying the ointment, Zhao Xinyu smiled and asked, "How do you feel now?" "I really feel it, it's cool. The area with the scar is very hot and a little painful." Zhao Xinyu felt a little relieved. Yumo had been injured for a long time. Although space water had an effect, he was worried that it would not work. Now when he heard Yumo say it, he knew that ointments and medicines had an effect on Yumo. Even if Yumo's scars cannot be completely eliminated, at least they can be greatly alleviated. Hearing what Yumo said, Lu Ruoshi's eyes lit up. "Zhao Xinyu, help me take a look. I've been feeling very tired and low on energy during this time." Zhao Xinyu smiled lightly and said, "Come and let me feel your pulse, but don't blame me if you make a mistake." Lu Ruoshi chuckled and stretched out her arm in front of Zhao Xinyu. Zhao Xinyu chuckled and put a finger on Lu Ruoshi's wrist, which shocked Du Mengnan and the others. Although they don't know much about Chinese medicine, they also know that Chinese medicine uses 3 fingers to diagnose pulse, but now Zhao Xinyu uses 1 finger, which subverts their understanding of pulse diagnosis. After a while, Zhao Xinyu took his hand back and said, "There's nothing wrong with me. Don't go to bed so late in the future. I was soaked in cold water when I was a child. My stomach hurts for a few days every month. This is all caused by being soaked in cold water. Caused by cold entering the body." Lu Ruoshi's pretty face suddenly turned red. Every month when she had a baby, her stomach would hurt for a few days, and it was still very uncomfortable. This kind of thing is not something that should be said, let alone being said by a young man of the same age as her, which makes Lu Ruoshi feel ashamed. She had also seen many doctors, but there was no effect. What shocked her even more was that Zhao Xinyu also said that she had been soaked in cold water when she was a child. If Zhao Xinyu didn't tell her about this, she had forgotten. When she was young, she was playful and accidentally fell into the lake. If there wasn't someone nearby, she would have been doomed that day. And it was after that time that she felt a little abnormal, but she was not sensible at that time, so she shouldn't. Something happened. She had seen so many doctors, but none of them had said this. But today, a young man about her age said it. How could this not surprise her? Can it be cured? Lu Ruoxi lowered her head and whispered. Yes, with acupuncture and decoction, as long as the yin and cold energy is forced out, it will be fine. Quickly, give me treatment. Thinking that time was coming soon, Lu Ruoxi was no longer willing to endure that kind of pain. Zhao Xinyu chuckled. He quickly wrote out a prescription and looked at Du Mengnan. You help me get the amount for 7 days, and I will give her acupuncture. After Du Mengnan left, Lu Ruoxi's pretty face turned red again, and she made a sound like a mosquito. Do you want to take off your clothes? As soon as she said this, Yuma and the others burst out laughing, which made Lu Ruoxi even more afraid to raise her head. No need, just lie down on the bed, it will take about half an hour. When Lu Ruoxi lay on the bed, Zhao Xinyu looked at the bumpy Lu Ruoxi, and suddenly felt an impulse in his heart, but then his expression became serious. He took out a box of silver needles and found some alcohol to disinfect them. The next moment, a silver light flashed. Before Yuma and the others could react at all, 12 silver needles had already entered his body. Then they saw Zhao Xinyu reach out and flick the tail of each silver needle at a very fast speed. The silver needles made a buzzing sound instantly, and Lu Ruoxi, who was lying on the bed, suddenly said, "It's so hot." At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 23, Overwhelming Country and City. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. Yuma and the others were stunned at this moment. They all looked at each other. They had never heard of such acupuncture techniques. Then every time when the trembling of the silver needle slowed down, Zhao Xinyu would quickly flick the tail of the silver needle, and the silver needle would make a sound like music. A few minutes later, Lu Ruoxi snored slightly, which made Yuma and the others shake their heads. They imagined that they could still fall asleep after such acupuncture, but Lu Ruoxi was too worried. After Du Mengnan retrieved the Chinese medicine, Zhao Xinyu soaked it in space water. He checked the time and removed the silver needle from Lu Ruoxi's body. Zhao Xinyu, help me take a look. Zhao Xinyu did not refuse, and completed the pulse diagnosis on the others in a few minutes. They were not like Lu Ruoxi. Although they had some minor problems, they did not affect their health. After Lu Ruoxi took the potion brewed by Zhao Xinyu looked at Umo and said, "Okay, you can wash off the ointment." When Umo washed off the ointment on their faces, Du Mengnan and the others were stunned at the same time. Although there was no obvious change in the scarred areas, other parts became whiter and tenderer than after putting on makeup. Du Mengnan turned around and looked at Zhao Xinyu, with a hint of brilliance in his eyes. "Zhao Xinyu, does your ointment have a beauty effect?" Zhao Xinyu was startled. To remove scars, you need to restore damaged skin. It should also have a beautifying effect. Quickly, prepare a few pairs for me. Zhao Xinyu glanced at Du Mengnan speechlessly. "You don't have scars, why are you using this thing? Look how good Yuma's skin is. If we had the ointment you brewed, we wouldn't need to use cosmetics." Zhao Xinyu felt a black eye. He did not expect that the prescription his grandfather gave him would become cosmetics in the eyes of Du Mengnan and others. The ointment has a strong Chinese medicinal smell. I will give you some ideas on how to remove the Chinese medicinal smell. Thank you then. If you need anything, I'll buy it. That I haven't thought about it yet. I can just go out and buy it myself. If you really want to use ointment to make cosmetics, the quality of the traditional Chinese medicine must be good. When Du Mengnan and others heard what Zhao Xinyu said, they were all excited beyond words. After thanking Zhao Xinyu repeatedly, they left together. After Du Mengnan and the others left, Zhao Xinyu went out on a bicycle. When he came back, the tricycle was almost loaded with large and small bags. After dinner that night, Zhao Xinyu sent Han Tianliang and the others away, returned to the room, and entered the space. Firstly, he wanted to see how the fish in the big puddle were doing, and secondly, he wanted to prepare ointment. In one night, Zhao Xinyu didn't know how much medicinal herbs was wasted. Although the taste of the prepared ointment has become very weak, it still cannot reach the taste that Zhao Xinyu imagined. For 3 consecutive days, Zhao Xinyu was studying the ointment. Until the early morning of the 4th day, Zhao Xinyu came out of the space with a small bowl. Although his face was full of exhaustion, his eyes were full of excitement. The ointment in the small bowl he was holding no longer had the smell of traditional Chinese medicine, but instead had a faint fragrance. This fragrance was a mixed fragrance. How to describe it specifically, Zhao Xinyu couldn't tell. In the morning, Du Mengnan and the others came over just like the previous few days. When they entered the door, Du Mengnan and the others were slightly startled. They smelled a light fragrance. This fragrance had a special smell. Just the fragrance made them feel. The spirit was shaken. What does it smell like? Du Mengnan asked Zhao Xinyu, who was about to give Lu Ruoxi acupuncture. Zhao Xinyu smiled faintly and pointed to the cupboard. I've prepared the ointment. You guys can see how it goes. If it doesn't work, I'll study it again. Du Mengnan and others' eyes lit up. They saw a small bowl on the cupboard. There was light golden lotion in the small bowl. The unique fragrance they smelled just now came from the small bowl. This scent is so good, Du Mengnan took a deep breath and said with a hint of excitement. Try it, wait about 10 minutes. Du Mengnan nodded. She found a basin and washed her face. Then she applied the lotion to her face like facial cleanser, waited for more than 10 minutes, and then washed the lotion off with water. How's it going? Du Mengnan didn't look in the mirror. She looked at Yuma and the others and asked. There were screams of surprise, and Yuma and the others saw that Du Mengnan's face was even whiter and tenderer than after putting on makeup, and water was almost dripping from her fair and tender face. How is everything? See for yourself. While Yuma was speaking, she had already picked up the wash basin. Yuma, you can't use this ointment for the time being. It's diluted and not very effective. Umo pouted and put the basin down. Du Mengnan over there saw her current appearance in the mirror, her eyes filled with joy. Zhao Xinyu, I will give you 3,000 a share, and you will make a share for each of us. Lying on the bed, Lu Ruoxi chuckled. Meng, you might as well open a factory together with Zhao Xinyu. Zhao Xinyu shook his head. This kind of ointment is all prepared by hand. The process is very cumbersome and cannot be mass-produced. It would be great if I can prepare a few for you. Then it's settled, we will use this ointment from now on. The ointment sounds awful, give it a name. When Zhao Xinyu finished diagnosing and treating Yuma and Lu Ruoxi, the radiant people had already thought of names for the ointment, which made them fall in love with each other. Zhao Xinyu didn't care about the name of the ointment. In his imagination, he just helped Du Mengnan and the others prepare the ointment. He did not expect that just a few years later, this name would become the most popular product in the world's cosmetics market, and it was also the kind that had a price but no market. When Du Mengnan and the others were leaving, Du Mengnan suddenly said, Zhao Xinyu, I think you should install a surveillance camera. When we came here just now, there was a big pile of garbage piled at your door, and big words were spray-painted on the door. If you monitor them, you can call the police and sue them for intimidation. Zhao Xinyu's eyes narrowed slightly and he nodded subconsciously. He really couldn't take care of such a big yard. Zhao Ximing and the others had been playing tricks on him. If there was enough evidence, they could really suffer. It's easy to do things if you have money, and on this afternoon, cameras were installed around the compound and the Luo River where water began to fill. Not only here, but also on the preserved vegetables side, cameras are installed. The villagers were surprised when a camera was installed in the compound, because many people in the village didn't even know what a camera was. Zhao Ximing, who was drinking with a few gangsters, also heard that Zhao Xinyu had installed a camera. The depression in his heart was simply indescribable. He is a scoundrel. He can walk sideways in the village, but he suffers from Zhao Xinyu and is laughed at by the villagers. This becomes a pain in his heart, so he has been sabotaging secretly in order to prevent Zhao Xinyu from feeling comfortable. But he also knew that with the surveillance, they had to avoid the cameras when doing damage, and if Zhao Xinyu used this to call the police, he really didn't want to go to that place. Did you hear that? that little bastard installed a camera, and it will be difficult for us to do things. Brother Zhao, that compound was left by Old Man Su. I remember that Old Man Su was a 5-guarantee household in the village. Logically speaking, after Old Man Su died, the compound should belong to the brigade. If the brigade can take back the compound, you can take it back. We can also grow vegetables in the compound, and we will make a lot of money by then. Zhao Ximing's eyes lit up and he drank the remaining half of the glass of wine in one gulp. Let's go find Han Tianliang. He must give an explanation today. Brother Zhao, Han Tianliang got a lot of benefits from that boy. He will definitely not agree. Let's find other people and let them force Han Tianliang. Zhao Xinyu, who was preparing to cook at home, also heard the news that Zhao Ximing went to the village to cause trouble and demanded that the village take back the compound, but he was not worried. Han Tianliang told him that this big courtyard was Su Ning's ancestral property. Although Su Ning was a 5-guaranteed household, the village had no right to take back the courtyard, and he still had Su Ning's will in his hand. All the cadres of the Will village knew about it, so no matter how much trouble Zhao Ximing and the others made, they could not get the property, and through this incident, Zhao Xinyu also knew that as long as Zhao Ximing was in this village, he would definitely think of various ways to cause trouble. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 24 Bad News. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. Zhao Ximing and the others had been making trouble in the village for several days, but because of Su Ning's will and the fact that the village cadres disdained Zhao Ximing, their idea of letting the village take back the compound came to nothing. However, they did not give up. They threw nails and wine bottles near the menu, and many customers accidentally had their tires slashed. In the end, they often made trouble near the menu when there were many customers. After several times, the customers were also panicked, and the number of customers suddenly decreased a lot. Because of these things, Zhao Xinyu was also very helpless. He had no good way to deal with a scoundrel like Zhao Ximing. He wanted to give him some money to stop him from causing trouble, but he also knew that people like Zhao Ximing were greedy. It's not enough for you to give him money once. He will also think of other ways to get you to keep giving him money. Water bills are the best example. For this matter, Han Tianliang and the others went to Zhao Ximing many times, but to no avail. Zhao Ximing even threatened to take back the courtyard and drive Zhao Xinyu out of Xianling. The days passed slowly under the constant harassment of scoundrels like Zhao Ximing and others. Although the harassment of these people reduced the passenger flow, people could not resist the temptation of the taste of vegetables. Many people also came up with a way to buy vegetables. Send it out, and then give the villagers a few dollars as reward. As a result, a large part of the people who go in and out of preserved vegetables every day are villagers who help buy vegetables. Many villagers can receive more remuneration than working outside by helping to buy vegetables. After learning about this incident, some villagers who were unable to work outside also returned to the village. In the end, a new profession appeared in Xianling, that is, the profession of delivering food to people. As the number of people in this industry increased, various food delivery companies finally launched the service of helping to buy food. As a result, the delivery boys who only appeared during 2 meals a day could be seen busy on the street every day, and because of this kind of business, the preserved vegetable business gradually became popular, and the vegetable and soybean water sold every day was taken away by the delivery boy. While the preserved vegetable business is booming, the vegetables grown in many villagers' yards have also matured. However, what disappoints them is that although their vegetables taste much better than those grown in greenhouses, they do not taste as good as those grown in Zhao Xinyu's compound. It's too far apart. Xinyu, Zhao Ximing and the others are causing trouble again. Han Li hurried over from outside in the middle of the morning. What's wrong? Zhao Xinyu frowned. Now he felt a headache when he heard Zhao Ximing's name. People in the village also grow a lot of vegetables in their yards, but the taste is very different from our vegetables. Zhao Xinyu bought the vegetables they grew at a low price and sold them outside as our vegetables at a high price. Now the villagers are like him. After I made it, many customers came to my door with vegetables. Zhao Xinyu shook his head. If they didn't look for them, how could they find us? Many people in the village were threatened by Zhao Xinyu and others. When delivering vegetables, they replaced our vegetables with vegetables grown by the villagers. Zhao Xinyu let out a long sigh and couldn't help but shake his head. Refund it to them. You go back immediately to find a few trustworthy people and paste their photos on the vegetables. From now on, we will only allow these people to deliver our vegetables. If anything happens to anyone, we will immediately stop them from delivering food, and they will not be allowed to deliver food in the future. Son of a bitch, Zhao Xinyu's face was distorted while he was drinking, and his wine glass fell heavily to the ground. In the past few days, he bought vegetables grown in the village at low prices, and switched to vegetables brought from preserved vegetables, and those grown by Zhao Xinyu vegetables are sold at high prices. In a few days, he made a lot of money, and he went to several places with the money to buy more vegetables. He wanted to make a lot of money, but he didn't expect that Zhao Xinyu directly named him. Several people delivered vegetables, and those who swapped vegetables for him were all fired. All his plans came to nothing. Little Huang Mao glanced at the vegetables piled up in the yard and said, "Brother Zhao, there are 2 trucks outside, and they are still waiting for the final payment. Tell them to pull back. Then the half we pay is. You all go out to buy groceries. Customers also know about that. Now they only recognize people, maybe our dishes. Go to other communities, hurry up, otherwise all our money will be wasted." While Zhao Xinyu and the others were busy buying vegetables at low prices, Zhao Xinyu received a call from his hometown. The villagers just told him to go back quickly. After hanging up the phone, Zhao Xinyu's mood suddenly became heavy. He knew very well that there must be something wrong with his grandfather. He called Han Li and the others, and then filled several large buckets with space water. "Han Li, I'm going back to my hometown tonight. You water them once every 3 days. When watering, put the water in the big buckets. Of water, use half a bucket at a time." Seeing Zhao Xinyu's solemn expression, he said, "Xinyu, what's wrong?" "It's okay, I suddenly want to go back and see my grandpa." Then he started to boil the ointment. This time he made a lot of ointment. He put the prepared ointment into a container. Zhao Xinyu also called Du Mengnan and asked her to come over and get the ointment. Then he left the building. Hospital, one does not have any household appliances. In the dark room, Zhao Xinyu looked at his grandfather whose face was covered with scars and was dying, and cried like rain, "Grandpa." The old man seemed to have a slight reaction, but he just squirmed a little. "Call the hospital." While Zhao Xinyu was speaking, he stretched out a finger and put it on the old man's wrist. After a moment, his face turned ashen, and he could feel that his grandfather's vitality was rapidly draining away, reaching the point where he was exhausted. "Xinyu, the doctor from the county has already come. Your grandfather was still conscious at that time and refused to go to the hospital. He said he would wait for you to come back." "My grandpa, what's going on?" "Your brother came back a few days ago and stayed for a few days. After he left, your grandfather became like this. Your grandfather said that he fell from the Kong to the ground." Zhao Xinyu's heart shrank, and he took a box of silver needles from the Kong. After a moment, after a painful sound, the old man slowly opened his eyes, but his eyes had begun to blur. He turned to look at an old man standing on the ground and said, "Wang Ru, I have something to say to Xinyu." The old man sighed slightly, turned around and left the yard. "Grandfather. Xinyu, I want to know what you want to ask. I don't have much time. Listen to me. I often took you to that place when you were young. You should still remember that where there are things I left for you, there are also you. It's a piece of jewelry you've worn since childhood. Now that you've grown up, you may be able to find your biological parents. Don't resent Grandpa." After saying this, the aura on the old man's body began to fade away. "Grandfather. A newly erected grave, a pile of paper money still smoking. Zhao Xinyu's eyes were red and swollen, his expression was extremely lonely, and his originally smooth chin had an extra layer of beard. He reached out and picked up the last handful of paper money and threw it into the pile of paper money. Tears flowed from Zhao Xinyu's eyes again. He hated himself for not coming back after recovering. It was his failure to come back that made him and his grandfather who loved him the most yin and yang. Apart, kneeling in front of the grave, Zhao Xinyu kowtowed 3 times. He picked up his backpack and glanced at the vaguely visible village in the distance. He sighed slightly. When handling the funeral arrangements for his grandfather, he heard the villagers who were helping him say that in the future, during the years when he went away to school, his younger brother Zhao Xinyu forced his grandfather to get money every time he came back. In 5 years, his grandfather didn't even take a sip of medicinal wine. Zhao Xinyu sold everything in the house that could be sold. Grandpa is gone, and the village no longer cares about him. He is even less willing to return to the yard where he grew up. He is worried that he will not be able to bear it. Taking a deep breath, he raised his eyes and looked at the mountains not far away. He walked towards the mountains. There were things left by his grandfather in the mountains. When he reached the bottom of the mountain, he turned to look at the village in the distance. A thick layer of mist appeared in his eyes. Suddenly he looked up to the sky and roared, his voice full of desolation. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 25 The Essence of the Golden Chamber. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. Although he had not been to this mountain for 5 years, when he was young, he and his friends in the village had to go in and out many times every year, and they knew where there were large beasts. Therefore, Zhao Xinyu has no unfamiliar feeling with this mountain. After entering the mountain, Zhao Xinyu is a little regretful that he cannot bring the black wind back this time. If there is a black wind, he will still be able to enter many places that he once did not dare to enter. Really dare to try it out. Unlike Pengcheng, the mountain he was in was still a little cold at the moment, but there were touches of green on the ground, but deep in the mountain it was lush, and all the green he saw were towering ancient trees that had survived for who knows how many years. After venting his frustration, Zhao Xinyu gathered his thoughts, wiped away his tears and entered the mountain. After walking a distance, Zhao Xinyu couldn't help but shake his head. He saw that the trail they had walked in the past had almost disappeared, and the road was full of weeds. This was because he was very familiar with the road into the mountain. If it had been anyone else, they would not have been able to find the road into the mountain. The road became like this. Apparently no one has entered the mountain for a long time. It is true that most of the young people in the village have gone out to work, and most of the remaining people in the village are old people and children. There are really not many people who go into the mountains. When passing through a bush with buds sprouting and the trunk turning purple, Zhao Xinyu's heart moved. This bush is called vinegar willow, which the villagers call sour. This is a perennial wild shrub that can be seen everywhere in the arid northern areas. Vinegar willow can prevent wind and sand and maintain water and soil. The fruits it produces are the favorites of the children in the village. At that time, every autumn, the children in the village will go into the mountains in droves to pick the sour fruits of vinegar. The sour feeling is very nostalgic. He had never been able to think of a use for the large piece of wasteland that looked like an isolated island in the Luo River, which had begun to store water. But now that he saw sour liquid, he immediately had the idea of planting vinegar around that wasteland. To keep the surrounding soil from collapsing into your Luo River, it can also be used to brew juice after it is sour and mature. Just do it. Zhao Xinyu took out the shovel from the space and started transplanting. He also knew that vinegar willows were the same as strawberries. He only transplanted a few plants. Because of the role of space, it would not take long for the space to grow. A large number of vinegar willows appear. Passing through patches of vinegar willows, Zhao Xinyu entered the ancient forest that required at least 3 people to hug. Stepping on fallen leaves that were at least 1 or 2 meters thick, Zhao Xinyu shook his head. If it were summer, there would be everywhere in the jungle here. You can see wild mushrooms. While walking through the jungle, Zhao Xinyu suddenly saw a patch of green in a place without fallen leaves. His eyes lit up. Granny Ding, dandelion, was a wild vegetable that people in the village ate in spring and summer when he was a child. Even though it was a wild vegetable, it is rich in nutrients, and because Ding is also a traditional Chinese medicine, it is still popular among people. During the few years in Pengcheng, he occasionally saw people selling Ding on the street, but the price was indeed beyond the reach of most people. Ding did not have many requirements for the environment and could grow anywhere. This made Zhao Xinyu think the vegetable patch. What surprised Zhao Xinyu was that when the vinegar willow was transplanted just now, there was no change in the space, but when the mother-in-law tree was transplanted into the space, there was a slight change in the space. Next, he found another kind of wild vegetable, bitter greens. When he transplanted the bitter greens into the space also changed slightly. While walking towards that place, I was searching, but I didn't find much, but I also found a lot of wild Chinese medicine. Every time herbs that were not in the space were transplanted into the space would change a little. When Zhao Xinyu passed by a cliff, his body froze slightly. He heard the chirping sound. He, who had been active in the mountains since he was a child, was moved, and there was a trace of doubt in his eyes. You must know that the temperature in the south is not low at this time, but it is still early spring in their area, and the chirping sounds represent the chirping of young birds. The chance of young birds appearing at this time is very rare. With a trace of doubt, Zhao Xinyu turned under the cliff. A few minutes later, he saw two unknown birds covered in blood in the grass on the cliff. The little birds have light yellow hooked beaks and are covered with a layer of gray-brown down. They lie in the grass and chirp from time to time, but the sound is very weak. Looking up at the broken wall, he saw a nest 7 or 8 meters above the ground. It was thought that these two unknown birds fell from the nest. Shipley shook his head. He knew that if the chicks were full, they would not move at all. But now the two chicks fell to the ground. Apparently they fell from a height of 7 to 8 meters because of hunger. They were really lucky not to fall to death. Turning around and looking around, Zhao Xinyu sighed slightly. He knew that even if the big bird came back, the two baby birds would only die. He bent down and picked up the two baby birds. He saw the head of one baby bird. The legs were even more twisted. He reset the legs of the young birds, and then brought them into the space for some space and water. He didn't know if his own space could allow them to survive, but he didn't want to see the two of them. The young bird died like this under the cliff. After walking a few hundred meters further, Zhao Xinyu saw two dead large birds in a patch of rocks. The big birds were 1.5 meters long, with dark brown heads and auburn feathers shaped like willow leaves. The tail ends of the feathers were golden. They are yellow with grayish-brown tail feathers. In more than 20 years of living, he has never seen such a huge bird, let alone their names. Turning his head to look at the cliff, Zhao Xinyu also knew why the two baby birds fell from the nest. It was probably because they couldn't wait for food, so they fell from the nest. Because he didn't know the cause of Big Bird's death, he didn't pay much attention to it. He walked around Big Bird's body and continued towards the depths of the mountain. A valley lined with rocks is surrounded by cliffs. There are caves under the cliffs. The caves vary in size, but they are all naturally formed. Animal feces can even be seen near the entrances of many caves. Seeing the animal excrement, Zhao Xinyu's expression instantly became solemn, and he took out the shovel from the space with a sudden thought, because he saw the excrement of a large animal, and it was not too long. After glancing around for a few times and seeing no movement, he bent down and entered a cave that was about 1 meter, 2 or 3 meters high. After bending down and walking out for 7 or 8 meters, the cave suddenly became taller and larger. He touched the left side of the cave wall and began to move forward. After dozens of meters, he touched a small pit and fumbled out a lighter that had been there for an unknown period of time. As the lighter sounded, the dark cave became brighter. Zhao Xinyu lit the half-burned candle. He saw that a thick layer of dust had fallen on the ground. Apparently his grandfather had not been here for a long time. With a slight sigh, Zhao Xinyu glanced at the empty cave a few times, and finally landed on an area where a pile of rocks was piled up. He walked over and moved the rocks away, and a cave entrance was revealed again. He turned around and went back to get the candle. Tears instantly filled Zhao Xinyu's eyes. He saw that in a cave with an area of only 20 square meters, at least 5 candles were placed. There are 10 jars of wine weighing about 10 kilograms. The bottom jar is covered with dust, and there is a dilapidated wooden box on top of the jar. Opening the wooden box with tears in his eyes, an ancient medical book that had turned yellow and turned black came into view, Essences of the Golden Chamber. He reached out and took out the thick essences of the Golden Chamber, and Zhao Xinyu frowned. There was a hint of doubt in his eyes. He has learned traditional Chinese medicine from his grandfather since he was a child, and he is also proficient in the synopsis of the Golden Chamber. The synopsis of the Golden Chamber is divided into 3 volumes. The first volume covers typhoid fever, the middle volume contains miscellaneous diseases, and the second volume contains strange prescriptions. Therefore, the synopsis of the Golden Chamber is regarded by Chinese medicine as the most important book on all prescriptions. Ancestor, now a book called The Essence of the Golden Chamber has appeared, and judging from the color of the book, it has been a long time. It seems that Grandpa has never told him. Zhao Xinyu couldn't help but smile bitterly after opening the Golden Chamber essence and taking a few glances at it. He saw some of the recipes on it and he knew them, just like the recipe for making the ointment came from the Golden Chamber essence. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 26 Adding Members. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me, thinking about the time when his grandfather handed these prescriptions to him mysteriously and said they were ancient prescriptions passed down from his ancestors. Zhao Xinyu couldn't help but shake his head and put the essence of the golden cup on the wine jar. He looked at the wooden box again. It was also a blackened ancient book with 4 ancient seal characters on it, the Hongmeng Sutra. Zhao Xinyu frowned slightly when he saw these 4 ancient seal characters. He took it out and flipped through it a few times. The content inside was nothing more than exercise routes and luck techniques, but he felt it seemed a bit familiar. Putting down the Hongmeng scripture, his eyes suddenly shrank, and he saw half a broken jade pendant on an envelope. The jade pendant was green in color, with a newly opened cloud on it. This. Zhao Xinyu subconsciously lowered his head and looked at his chest. Why did he feel that the half-broken jade pendant was very similar to the mark on his chest? With trembling hands, he picked up the jade pendant with most of it missing. Zhao Xinyu instantly felt a sense of blood connection, which made him happy. He put the jade pendant aside, suppressed the excitement in his heart, and picked up the envelope in the box. After opening it, Zhao Xinyu saw familiar handwriting, and his tears burst out again. The content of the letter roughly stated that the incomplete jade pendant was there when he picked it up, that the medicinal wine here was left for him over the years, and that there was a secret door under the wine jar, which was what he really left for himself. With tears in her eyes, she put all the medicinal wine into the space. There were 62 jars. Thinking that these medicinal wines were brewed by his grandfather himself, and the herbs in them were all collected from the mountains, Zhao Xinyu was even more heartbroken. Grandpa likes to drink, but he has accumulated so much for himself over the years, and Zhao Xinyu still doesn't know how much energy it takes. Thinking of Zhao Xinyu, Zhao Xinyu's eyes turned cold, but then he thought about his grandfather's last words, and that trace of hatred was hidden deep in his heart. Using a shovel to clean up the dust on the ground, Zhao Xinyu saw a stone crevice with a hole in it. He reached in and lifted it several times, but there was no reaction. Frowning, Zhao Xinyu moved a stone and used the principle of leverage to remove the cover of the stone, which weighed 100 kilograms. He saw a dilapidated box in a dark space. Taking out the box, he opened it, and an aura similar to the aura of space filled the air. He saw that the box with a diameter of 3 feet square was filled with ancient books that exuded the aura of space. He casually picked up the ancient book at the top and looked at it for a few times. There was a trace of doubt in his eyes. He knew the handwriting on it, but the content seemed to be some ancient martial arts practice, because it mentioned acupuncture points and meridians. Because he didn't understand, he directly put the wooden box into the space, then looked outside, moved the removed rocks over again, blocked the hole, and entered the space in a flash. Looking at the incomplete jade pendant in his hand, Zhao Xinyu tried many times, but there was no movement on the jade pendant. Thinking about the fact that he got this space after an accident that day, and the report said that those people were selling antiques, his heart moved, and then bite your finger and drip blood on the jade pendant. The next moment, the entire space suddenly trembled, and the area increased at a speed visible to the naked eye. The vegetables, crops, vinegar willows, grapes, and herbs in the empty house began to grow crazily, and the area also became larger as the space became larger. The large puddle in the center of the space is also expanding rapidly, and the rockery-like white boulders in the middle are also growing crazily. When the space stopped shaking, a giant peak hundreds of meters high appeared in the center of the space. The giant peak was white and crystal clear, as if it were carved out of jade. The large puddle where the giant peak is located cannot be described as a puddle at the moment. It has turned into a lake of at least 10 acres. The lake water is crystal clear, and there are groups of fish swimming in it. At least 3 carp were initially put in. How long is the meter? The area of the space reached hundreds of acres, and the entire space was as wide as a huge farm. The clouds and mist above the space seemed to disperse, and the looming stars became clear. It was a cyan star, a star. The surroundings are filled with cyan mist, and the mist is constantly surging, exactly like the changes in clouds and mist outside. The tomatoes in the space have become taller and thicker. From a distance, the tomato field is bright red. The cucumbers and eggplants, like tomatoes, have undergone great changes. Now, just take out any tomatoes and cucumbers in the space. Strains will cause a stir. The grapes that were cut into the space during the Chinese New Year have grown into a forest. From a distance, all that can be seen are purple grapes, and there are not a few green leaves. It is as if the grapes have become the main color, and the leaves have become mixed colors. The vinegar willow that was just transplanted today has already stretched into a long patch. Red and golden oval fruits the size of broad beans are hanging all over the branches. All the branches are bent downward. Only the fruits can be seen, and not many leaves can be seen. Zhao Xinyu estimated that there are at least 7 or 8 acres of vinegar willows now. And mother-in-law and bitter vegetables can be seen everywhere, even in the vegetable fields. You can see patches of wild vegetables. If we talk about the biggest change in space, it's Chinese medicine. The longer the years of Chinese herbal medicine grow, the more precious it becomes. But now many herbs in space are at least hundreds of years old, and like vegetables and fruits, they also appear in pieces. Watching the changes in the space, the sadness in Zhao Xinyu's heart slowly disappeared, replaced by a kind of excitement and joy. He reached out to unbutton his clothes, and then was slightly stunned. He saw that the mark on his chest was still incomplete, which made him frown. Wrinkling, I was looking forward to what the space would look like if the mark was restored. Just when Zhao Xinyu felt excited, a sound of birdsong came from the grape forest. Zhao Xinyu's heart moved, and there was a trace of surprise in his eyes. He walked quickly towards the grape forest, and then he was stunned. Under the grapes were 2 large birds with full feathers, about 50 or 60 centimeters in size. Different from the large dead birds he saw in the mountains, these 2 large birds had brown feathers on their heads and bodies, but there were very few of them. The double spines and tail feathers are pale gold. Looking up and down, Zhao Xinyu's eyes were full of doubts, but he knew in his heart that these 2 big guys must be the children of the 2 big death birds. Just when Zhao Xinyu was in a daze, 2 strange birds had discovered him. They opened their wings and ran towards Zhao Xinyu. When they got closer, Zhao Xinyu could feel the strong force brought by the 2 wings. Zhao Xinyu wanted to dodge, but he didn't want the 2 guys' big mouths like iron hooks to leave anything on him. Unexpectedly, the 2 guys came to him, folded their wings, and hummed at him a few times. They spread their wings again and patted Zhao Xinyu's legs lightly. Zhao Xinyu breathed a sigh of relief. He felt the goodwill brought by the 2 big guys. He subconsciously reached out to touch them, even though the 2 guys didn't even hide. they looked like they were enjoying themselves, caressing the two big guys. Zhao Xinyu thought of Heifeng. He patted them and said with a smile, "When I get back, I will introduce you to a partner. His name is Heifeng. You should also have a name." He looked at one of them and his eyes fell on his exposed leg. He saw that this guy had a scar on his leg, which was the one that broke his leg in the morning. "Your feathers are golden. From now on, I will call you Jinseng, and you will be called Xinyu." What surprised Zhao Xinyu was that the two guys seemed to understand what he said. They spread their big wings again and patted Zhao Xinyu's body a few times. His big hand stroked the two guys again a few times. Zhao Xinyu seemed to have thought of something. He picked a bunch of grapes that were like purple gems and were about the size of pigeon eggs. He said with a smile, "Let's go, I will take you to catch them." Fish. After walking a few steps, Zhao Xinyu froze. He turned to look at the grape forest, his eyes full of surprise. Although the grapes were already ripe, for various reasons, this was the first time he tasted grapes. The grapes were sweet with a hint of sourness, and there was an indescribable comfort in eating them. What surprised him most was that even the skins of the grapes melted in your mouth, with no grape seeds inside. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 27 Lost Direction. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. After tasting the grapes, Zhao Xinyu felt a little worried. If he didn't have any good plans to develop the wasteland given to him by the village, now he already had a plan in mind, and he also felt that the area of the wasteland seemed a bit large. Smaller. While eating grapes and thinking about it, he suddenly thought that there was also a ravine to the west of his yard. Although the ravine was not like Luoha, it was still full of garbage and overgrown with weeds. After he contracted Luo Shui and started cleaning up, Han Tianliang revealed his meaning. The village also wanted him to contract the ravine to the west of the compound because his area was close to the main road. Every time there was an inspection, because several gullies were often criticized by name in the village, but because Han Tianliang also knew that the gullies to the west had no water source, he just mentioned them casually. If you really take down that ravine, you can just transform it and divert the water from the Luo River there, and you can plant grapes on a large area. But thinking about the fact that there was another Zhao Ximing in the village who gave everyone a headache, Zhao Xinyu shook his head helplessly. With a courtyard, a wasteland and a Luoha river, he already had a headache. Coupled with the ravine to the west of the courtyard, I really don't know what trouble Zhao Ximing will make. At the lake in space, Zhao Xinyu carried the bucket for initial watering and threw a handful of rapeseed into the lake. The next moment the lake water stirred, and a group of fish began to fight for the rapeseed floating on the water. He just put the bucket into the water, and immediately a fish entered the bucket, and it was not just one. He took the fish out and threw it to Jinseng and Xinyu. A fish that was as big as a pound was swallowed by their mouths. Down. When the two guys were full, Zhao Xinyu used 7 fish, which made Zhao Xinyu even more curious about what kind of raptors Jinseng and Xinyu came from. After feeding the two big guys, Zhao Xinyu was also a little tired. He did not leave the space and just slept in the space. This place was close to the depths of the mountain. Occasionally, large carnivores such as wolves or leopards appeared. I am not worried that people from the village will come to this place. When he left the cave, he saw that it was already the morning of the next day. He saw that the time was still early, and thought that he might leave again this time. He didn't know when he wanted to enter the mountain again, so he went to a place that a grandfather once told him, but he has never been to, but in the past, the shovel and the space never left his hand. Grandpa told him that there were wild beasts in that place. The reason why Grandpa never let him go was because he was worried about what danger he would encounter. A few minutes later, when Zhao Xinyu crossed a dry river, he saw several rotten and fallen dead trees on the edge of the river, and there were pieces of curly black under the dead trees. Wild fungus. Zhao Xinyu felt happy when he saw these pieces of curly black. He could occasionally collect wild fungus when he was a child. He knew the benefits of wild fungus, and he also knew that wild fungus grew in under the dead wood. If this were before, he might not have had many ideas, but it was different now. He had a space where all things could grow. He grabbed the rotten dead wood, and with a thought, he put the dead wood into the space, and then suddenly felt a sense of weakness. He also guessed why he felt this way. It must have been caused by spending too much energy. However, thinking that wild fungus might appear in the space, he rested for a while and brought all the dead trees into the space. After feeling it, Zhao Xinyu couldn't help but shake his head. There was no response from the space, which made him a little disappointed. He also regretted in his heart that he thought a few dead trees were treasures containing wild fungus strains. As he continued to move forward, the sound of birdsong came from time to time. Birds such as pheasants, turtle doves, and tits unique to the mountains flew up and down near him from time to time. In the jungle, there were also pine trees, hares, and even roe deer and badgers. The animals poked their heads in the distance to stare at this strange visitor. Looking at these animals, Zhao Xinyu thought of Hafen again. If Hafen was by his side, he might be able to harvest a lot of game this time. At least he wouldn't have to eat only grapes and dry food in the mountains. Feeling sad that this time he did not bring out the black wind, Zhao Xinyu suddenly shrank his eyes. He saw large pits more than 1 meter deep in the thick pine needles, and there were piles of feces around the large pits. And there are several big pits that have just formed not long ago. Seeing this scene, Zhao Xinyu felt nervous. He had heard from his grandfather that these big pits were dug out by wild boars in the mountains. Now there are still big pits that have just been dug out, which means that there must be wild boars nearby, and not one yet. Worried about encountering wild boars head-on, Zhao Xinyu became more cautious and moved much slower. Although the speed slowed down, he also made some gains and harvested some wild Chinese medicinal materials. Suddenly a sound of humming made Zhao Xinyu stop. He hid behind an ancient tree and looked warily in the direction of the sound. He saw 7 or 8 wild boars foraging for food in the jungle. Although wild boars and domestic pigs look similar in appearance, the fur color of wild boars is not the black and white of domestic pigs. Their fur colors are black and brown. Zhao Xinyu estimated that the largest wild boar in the group weighs at least 1,780 pounds, thinking about his grandfather saying that trees as thick as a bowl can be broken by wild boars. If he was hit by these big guys, he might become their food. Thinking of this, he leaned down and backed away slowly, and when he backed away when he was walking, his heart shrank, and he saw the largest wild boar staring at him, with a hint of ferocity in his eyes. Damn it, I've been discovered, Zhao Xinyu swore and turned around and ran. When he ran, he didn't run in a straight line, but ran around the big tree. This is what his grandfather taught him. No matter how fast a person is, there is no comparison at all against the animals in the mountains. Running around the big trees can delay the animal's sudden speed increase. After running 1,000 meters, Zhao Xinyu heard a dull sound behind him. When he walked around a big tree again, he saw a wild boar crashing into the big tree. The wild boars immediately stopped and howled at him. And then when the wild boar stood up, perhaps because they felt that Zhao Xinyu was not easy to hunt, they turned around and left, and did not continue to chase him down. Watching the wild boars leave, Zhao Xinyu let out a sigh of relief. Only then did he realize that his back had been soaked with sweat for some time, and his legs were even a little weak. Looking at the wild boars that were far away, Zhao Xinyu let out a sigh of relief, and then he was stunned. He saw that the shovel he had been holding had disappeared at some point. There are no weapons in his hands. Thinking about the fact that there are large carnivores such as wolves and leopards deep in the mountains, Zhao Xinyu feels like going back. He is not Wusong. If he really encounters these big guys, he will have no choice but to enter the space. There is no way to survive except hiding. Now that he wanted to retreat, Zhao Xinyu didn't hesitate at all. He turned around and headed back the way he came. But after walking a certain distance, his face became ugly and he lost his way. If you lose your way in the city, you can ask passers-by everywhere, but it is different in the jungle of the mountains. Losing your way is tantamount to committing suicide. How many experienced travel friends have lost their way and ended up becoming food for wild beasts? He took out his mobile phone to determine the direction. but there was no signal on the mobile phone. He could only use the compass on the mobile phone to determine the general direction of the village. At this moment, Zhao Xinyu felt full of regret. If he had taken the things his grandfather had left for him and gone back, such a thing would not have happened at all. But now he was regretful and had no choice but to go in the direction indicated by his mobile phone. The house leaked and it rained all night. After walking for more than an hour, his cell phone was turned off and out of battery. Looking at the dead cell phone, Zhao Xinyu's nervous heart gradually calmed down. He knew that the more panicked he was, the more dangerous he would be. He thought about what his grandfather said when he took him into the mountains when he was a child. He saw a thick wooden stick nearby, then looked in one direction and walked down. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, Zhao Xinyu walked in the mountains and forests for 3 full days. In 3 days, he saw at least 5 waves of wild boars and 2 wolf packs, but luckily, the wild boars and wolves were not discovered. During this period, he was not without gains. He harvested a lot of wild herbs that were considered precious in the outside world, but he still couldn't find the source. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 29 Medicinal Wine. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. Grandpa Han, we are just ordinary friends. Han Tianliang laughed and said, ordinary friends can develop in that direction. I'll go take a look at the preserved vegetables. In less than half an hour, Hanli called, with only one content. They couldn't eat the food cooked by Shirpu these days, and they were all a bit anorexic. Their biggest wish now is to eat the dishes cooked by Zhao Xinyu at night. After hanging up the phone, Zhao Xinyu shook his head, gathered his thoughts and went to the vegetable field to pick some vegetables, but then he thought of the wild vegetables in the space. After looking at the sky that was about to darken, he went out and locked the door, letting Haifeng watch from the yard. He returned to the room and entered the space. Just when he picked some wild vegetables and was about to leave, he saw a rotten tree not far away. He vaguely noticed that the color of the dead wood was a little wrong. After getting closer, Zhao Xinyu was stunned for a moment. He saw that the rotten trees that had been brought into the space were covered with purple fungus. Rubbing his eyes, he confirmed that the fungus he saw was indeed purple. This made Zhao Xinyu's eyes full of doubts. You must know that all the fungus that people are familiar with are black, but now the fungus growing on the trunk has become pure purple. This made him feel incredible. He picked a piece and identified it. While confirming that it was not poisonous, he also smelled a faint fragrance that was not found in other types of fungus, which made him happy. After leaving the space with the wild vegetables and fungus, he thought about the medicinal wine brewed by his grandfather. He took out a jar, but thinking that Han Li and the others would definitely ask about it, he took out 15 more jars of medicinal wine from the space, and brought them out. These medicinal wines were placed in an empty room. After cooking a fish, preparing the ingredients for frying, and preparing the wild vegetables, Zhao Xinyu informed Han Li and the others. While sitting down to wait, he suddenly thought of Pang Mingyuan, who had always taken good care of him during college. When he became like that, he didn't want to drag down Pang Mingyuan, so he changed his phone without notifying Pang Mingyuan. Now that he has fully recovered, and after experiencing the death of his grandfather, he has also experienced family affection. When he thinks of Han Li and the others, he also thinks of Pang Mingyuan. He took out his phone and called Pang Mingyuan. As the computer-synthesized sound played, Zhao Xinyu's expression dimmed. Pang Mingyuan's number became empty, and he also changed his mobile phone number, thinking that he was still in Pengcheng at the moment, and when the two separated, he did not ask Pang Mingyuan which hospital he would choose in the end. Zhao Xinyu raised his head and sighed. He didn't know if he would see Pang Mingyuan again in this life. Just when he was regretting why he didn't ask his friend which hospital he would choose, Haifeng, who was lying next to him, suddenly stood up and growled at him. Zhao Xinyu immediately got up and started cooking. When Han Li and others came in, they all saw the word filial piety on Zhao Xinyu's left arm. But perhaps they all heard Han Tianliang mention it and just comforted Zhao Xinyu a few words without asking too. Many questions. After frying a plate of vegetables, when he turned around with the dishes in hand, he saw that the dining table was empty. The stewed fish, the prepared diced pork belly, and the bitter vegetables were all missing. Xinyu, everyone eats under the grape trellis these days. It's cool and there are no mosquitoes. Lu Ming took the dishes from Shipley's hand and said with a smile, I took the last fried dish to the grapes. Although it was getting dark, the incandescent lights were installed under the grape trellis, so it was really not much different from home. Xinyu, where did you get these wild vegetables? The taste is unparalleled. When Sheepy put down the meat to fry the fungus, he saw that only an empty plate was left behind the 2 plates of wild vegetables. I brought these all from my hometown. I still have them at home. You can pick them up yourself. I also brought the medicinal wine brewed by my grandfather from my hometown. I will go to the jar and let everyone try it. When he came over with a jar of medicinal wine, he couldn't help but shake his head. He saw that all the extra dishes he had cooked were brought over by these guys. What kind of fungus is this? Why is it purple? It can't be poisonous. Han Li pointed to the plate of meat and fried fungus and asked with a smile. Don't eat it if you're afraid of being poisoned to death. That fungus is a wild fungus unique to our mountains. Not only here, but even if you have money over there, you may not be able to eat it. While speaking, Ship Pu Lei knocked off the thick mud seal on the wine jar. Inside the mud seal is a piece of light yellow waterproof oilcloth. Take off the oilcloth and uncover the wine cover made of cork. A scent of wine mixed with a medicinal smell diffuses into the air, and a light layer of wine mist forms on the mouth of the wine jar. Most people may not know what wine mist is, but Zhao Xinyu, who has been making wine with his grandfather, knows that wine mist can only appear in medicinal wine brewed from pure grains, but not all medicinal wines brewed from pure grains can form wine mist. Maybe the thing that can condense the wine mist must be medicinal wine brewed from pure grains. This wine tastes so good, Han Jun and the others said almost in unison. Zhao Xinyu smiled faintly and said, this wine is a good thing. There are a total of 36 kinds of wild Chinese herbal medicine in it. Drinking it regularly and in moderation can strengthen the body, relax muscles and activate blood circulation. Drink less, and you will be guaranteed to have a good sleep at night. What's the mist on top? Han Li asked, pointing to the lingering wine mist at the mouth of the wine jar. Han Tianliang took a deep breath, that's wine mist. Ordinary liquor cannot condense wine mist at all. Just 1 kilogram of this wine can be exchanged for at least 1 bottle of Wulianya. Ah, this sentence immediately caused Han Jun and the others to exclaim. A bottle of Wulianya costs hundreds or even thousands. Now 1 pound of medicinal wine can be exchanged for a bottle of Wulianya, which makes them really unbelievable. Zhao Xinyu gave Han Tianliang and the other drinkers a glass each, and his eyes fell on the glass in front of Lu Ming's mother. Aunt Lu, you don't drink, so drink less. Come less. Zhao Xinyu smiled faintly and poured half a glass for some of them who had never drank. Aunt Lu looked at the wine drops condensed on the wall of the cup, her eyes flickering, and she turned to look at her husband, Lu Jiuzheng. Lu Jiuzheng nodded to her, drink it. Old Han said it must be good wine. Aunt Lu shook the wine glass, and the strong aroma of wine filled the air. Although it was just the aroma of wine, Aunt Lu felt that her tired body instantly relaxed a lot, and Aunt Lu felt that this wine seemed to be better than the wine her husband drank in the past. Be a little thicker, taking a small sip, the medicinal wine has just a hint of spiciness and sweetness. When I swallow it, I feel a warm current flowing through my body, and my whole body is filled with warmth and an indescribable comfort. Dad, after drinking this wine, your body will warm up and relieve fatigue. It tastes good. Aunt Lu said this when she drank for the first time. After hearing what Aunt Lu said, everyone else raised their glasses. Even those who had never drank before took a sip. After a sip, everyone's eyes lit up. Just as Aunt Lu said, this not to mention that the wine is mellow, the fatigue on my body is relieved a lot after drinking it. Eat vegetables, how come no one eats this fungus? While talking, Zhao Xinyu picked up a piece of fungus. The next moment his eyes lit up. In addition to being crisp and tender, the fungus also had a fragrance that other fungus did not have. This he was surprised. Did he really get a new variety of fungus? I'll try it too, Han Tianyang said with a smile as he took a sip of wine. After taking a sip, he, like Zhao Xinyu, showed a hint of surprise in his eyes, and subconsciously took another piece. Apparently he felt that the purple fungus tasted good. This wild fungus is really delicious. If you can cultivate it yourself, you will definitely be able to sell it at a good price. Hearing what Han Tianyang said, everyone else stretched out their chopsticks to pick up a piece and took a bite. Everyone nodded. Xinyu, your fungus has a really unique taste. I'm going to get some back. Maybe it's been too long since I've eaten the dishes cooked by Zhao Xinyu, or maybe the medicinal wine tastes so good. The meal didn't end until after 11 o'clock. A jar of 10 kilograms of medicinal wine was half drunk. This is also Han Tianyang said that there would be things to do tomorrow, and people stopped. Aunt Lu and each of them, who were drinking for the first time, had a drink. Until they went home, they were still wondering how they could drink so much and not feel any discomfort at all. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 30 Sour Taste as Big as Broad Beans. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. After sending Han Tianyang and the others away, Zhao Xinyu looked at the space water left behind and saw that there was no more space water in the bucket. He turned his eyes to the gap in the east wall. When the construction started, for the convenience of entering and exiting Luoshui in the future, the construction team specially created a road. Now there is a gap in the east wall. Zhao Xinyu easily walked down the steps to the edge of Luoshui, then squatted down and started to walk towards Luoshui. Fill the space with water and don't stop until you feel a little tired. Heifeng, let's take you to meet a friend. After returning to the room and washing up, Zhao Xinyu led Heifeng into the space. Perhaps feeling that the space had undergone tremendous changes, Heifeng entered the space and roared to the sky. The next moment, a bird song came from the distant vineyard, which made Heifeng turn his head and his eyes flickered. Taking Heifeng to the grape grove, Zhao Xinyu saw that Jianhen and Jinyu seemed to have grown up in a few days. After the 2 big guys saw Zhao Xinyu, they also wanted to come over, but seeing Heifeng beside him, a hint of vigilance appeared in the eyes of the 2 big guys. Zhao Xinyu also knew the cruelty of the animal world. He chuckled, patted Heifeng on the back, and pointed at Jianhen and Jinyu. They are your new partners, you can't bully them. He didn't look. At this moment, there was a hint of fear in Heifeng's eyes. Let's go over and get to know each other. When he passed by, Zhao Xinyu found that Heifeng, who was originally lively and energetic, now had a feeling of weakness with his big head. Jianhen, Jinyu, this is Heifeng, my best partner. We will be a family from now on. Jianhen and Jinyu tilted their heads and glanced at Heifeng for a few times, and hummed at Heifeng for a few times. Then they walked to his side and patted his body lightly with their big wings. Heifeng was instantly shaken. He also growled a few times at Jianhen and Jinyu. You go and play by yourselves, and I'll plant fruit trees. He thought of the almost dead fruit seedlings he picked up at the seed company when he came back. If Zhao Xinyu still needs to find tools or something outside, he doesn't need them in space. He just inserts the fruit seedlings directly into the green soil. After planting the fruit seedlings, he looked at the ripe sours in the distance, swallowed a few mouthfuls of saliva, and walked towards the area where the sours were. He couldn't remember how many years he hadn't eaten sours. He wanted to go there and missed the feeling of his childhood. When he got closer, 2 pheasants flew up from the flutter, and then a dozen little pheasants ran out from under the sour ground. The 2 pheasants crowed a few times. After seeing that it was Zhao Xinyu, they circled down and ran over. Next to Zhao Xinyu, he was crowing at him, while the group of chicks gathered around his parents, tilting their heads and looking at this strange visitor. Looking at the family in front of him, Zhao Xinyu felt excited. He was busy leaving that day. but he didn't expect that the mercy would give him a big surprise. He now has some understanding of the role of space. It won't be long before the pheasant business will reach a large scale. By then, he won't have to worry about meat issues anymore. He waved his hand towards Pheasant and his wife left with their children. It was also the first time that he saw the sourness after the change of space up close. Each of the sour trees is 1 meter tall, with fruits the size of broad beans, blood red, or golden. The fruits are so dense that the leaves are almost covered, and the thin branches bend downward in an arch shape. Looking at the lush sour milk, Zhao Xinyu swallowed a few mouthfuls of saliva, and the unique sour and sweet taste of sour milk seemed to appear in his mouth. I stretched out my hand to pick a few and put them into my mouth. Like the grapes in space, they melted in the mouth. Different from the sourness in my memory, the sourness in front of me was sweet and sour. The juice was as thick as honey. After entering my stomach, I felt like it was sour. A slight feeling of coolness, perhaps the taste was too delicious. Zhao Xinyu kept stuffing sour juice into his mouth just like he did when he was a child. After a while, his face was covered with sticky juice. He didn't know how much he had eaten. In the end he felt that whenever his teeth were sour, he would feel itchy. Only then did he stop. Looking at the hands covered with juice, I rubbed them a few times, but the juice was like paste, making my hands feel like they couldn't be rubbed. Shaking his head, he went to the lake and cleaned his hands and face. After leaving the space with Heifeng, he saw that his chest was full of sour juice, which made him laugh. He did it as an adult. If Han Li and the others saw this, they would die laughing. After washing his clothes, he looked at the time. It was already 3 in the morning. Thinking about how he had been away during this period, the tomatoes, cucumbers, eggplants, green peppers, beans and other vegetables in the yard had suffered a lot of losses. He simply entered the space again and put the vegetables and the space began to pour out. At nearly 6 o'clock, when he felt that Han Li and the others were about to come to deliver vegetables, he came out of the space, opened the door, and then returned home and fell on the big bed. During those days, he had been watching out for wild beasts in the mountains, and now he returned home. Filling the space with water and picking vegetables all consumed a lot of his energy, and he soon fell asleep. If this were other people in the village, they would definitely not dare to open the courtyard door, but Zhao Xinyu is not worried. Heifeng has now grown into a big dog. His size alone is enough to scare people, and he never eats food fed by unfamiliar people. If Zhao Xinyu was at home, he wouldn't even pay attention to Han Li and the others. He wouldn't go out. He would know if there was any movement, not to mention that there was surveillance at home. Not long after Zhao Xinyu fell asleep, Han Li and the others came together. When they saw the vegetables piled up in the courtyard, they couldn't help but look towards Zhao Xinyu's room. It was already very late when they left last night, and so many vegetables in front of them could not be picked in 1 or 2 hours. It was obvious that Zhao Xinyu did not sleep that night. You must know that they are all hired by Zhao Xinyu. Logically, Zhao Xinyu does not need to do such things himself, but now, with a hint of gratitude in their hearts, they did not go to Zhao Xinyu's room like before, but began to gently load the vegetables into the truck and transport them away. Just when Zhao Xinyu was sleeping in a daze, he felt someone pushing him, and then he heard a voice, "Get up, lazy pig, it's already past 10 o'clock. Rubbing his eyes, Zhao Xinyu stood up, and then he saw 5 charming beauties standing in the room, each of them staring at him. So white and tender, this skin is better than mine. Zhao Xinyu's old face turned red and he quickly pulled off his t-shirt and put it on. Why are you here? Standing in his room were Du Mengnan, Umo, and the others. Zhao Xinyu, do you know that Meng Meng has missed you so much these days since you left? She even calls your name in her sleep. Du Mengnan's pretty face turned crimson, and she reached out to catch Umo who was talking. Umo giggled and ran out of the room as fast as he could, and Du Mengnan chased after him immediately. Zhao Xinyu, Umo's ointment has been used up, and the ointment you promised us has not been prepared yet. We are here to see if you are back. Lu Ruoxi said softly. Zhao Xinyu nodded and looked at the 3 charming beauties in the room. Guys, please go out first while I get dressed. These words made the 3 of them blush, and they realized that they were in the home of a man who had not yet gotten up, and that the man was the same age as them. Zhao Xinyu got up, washed up and went out of the yard. He saw that Du Mengnan and the others had gone to the grape trellis, and he followed them. After all, he was the master now. Zhao Xinyu, what is this? When they arrived at the grape trellis, before he could speak, Du Mengnan pointed at the leftover mother-in-law, bitter vegetables and fungus and asked, while Yuma was squatting there to study. There is still a medicinal wine jar filled with the aroma of wine. Zhao Xinyu was slightly startled. You don't even recognize this, right? Du Mengnan curled his lips and said, how come I haven't eaten it before? This is what I brought back yesterday, and there are some more that I will make for you at noon. Meng, smell it, this wine smells so good, and there is a hint of Chinese medicine in it. Du Mengnan turned around and squatted down, then raised his head and said, you brought this back too. This is the medicinal wine brewed by my grandfather. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises.